Kyle Larson gets his second win of this NASCAR season, and once again, it is very difficult to pass at Martinsville. Let's talk about NASCAR at the Paperclip. Hello everybody, welcome to Dirty Air. I'm your host Alex Lambert, and let's talk about NASCAR in the Commonwealth of Virginia, the Paperclip, Martinsville Speedway. We have a whole lot of action to talk about today. Kyle Larson getting his second win of the NASCAR season. The Stewart-Haas Racing Fords were running really fast today, but unfortunately did not get the results that they should have. And then, of course, a few more stalling out problems. Not a lot of passing today at Martinsville, which is definitely a concern. We'll get into all that. Let's go ahead and get on into it. So we're going to start out the show today by talking about the winner. Kyle Larson in the number 5 Hendricks.com Chevrolet was able to get his second win of the season. Both of those wins coming at short tracks, by the way, a few weeks ago at Richmond, and then, of course, today at Martinsville. His first Martinsville win, he even said in his post-race interview, has not had the best luck, has not had much success at the Martinsville Speedway, but was able to use a strategy move there at the end to take 2 tires on the last pit stop, get past Joey Logano, and win today at Martinsville. Joey Logano, who was on old tires, did not come down pit road. And then, of course, Chase Briscoe, who was leading at the time of that final caution. I believe it was J.J. Yeley who blew a tire, went up, slammed the wall. Chase Briscoe was leading the race at the time, got 4 tires on pit road. Not too sure if I'm very confident in that decision. Not too sure why that decision was made, considering we saw where track position was really important all day. But Kyle Larson was able to capitalize on that instance, and then he was able to obviously go out and pass Joey Logano and get the win today at the Paperclip. So obviously an exciting win for Kyle Larson. Kyle Larson's been fast at every racetrack this year. I just want to mention Kyle Larson has been fast at all types of racetrack. He was fast at Daytona in the Daytona 500, fast in Atlanta. He's been fast at the short tracks. He was fast at the Bristol Dirt last week till he got caught up in some trouble. The only exception would really be the road courses, which we've only had one of those, and he had a disastrous road course race. So Kyle Larson is really showing some muscle. Could have won Las Vegas if it wasn't for a late race caution. Could have won Phoenix, was obviously right there in the mix. Had a lot of speed right now for the number 5 car. Really the entire Hendrick Motorsports camp, but especially Kyle Larson. Want to watch him. If there's a championship favorite, early championship favorite, it's definitely Kyle Larson right now with 2 wins on the season and showing a lot of speed every week. So so let's go ahead and talk about the entire top 5 in this race, or the entire top 10 in this race. And we're going to start out, I obviously talked about Kyle Larson already, how he was able to use strategy to come up and get the win. Track position, once again, was really important all day long. Joey Logano, solid second place finish for him. Definitely wasn't the fastest car all day. Logano got lapped a couple of times, went 1 lap down, was able to get the wave around, the lucky dog with the caution flags that came out, get back on the lead lap. Paul Wolfe was able to make some great strategy calls to get him back up front. He actually restarted on that final restart in the lead. Unfortunately, on the older tires, obviously no new tires, Kyle Larson on 2 tires was able to go by Joey Logano after it took him a lot of laps to do it. Joey Logano even said in his post-race interview that he was going to have to move me to get by me, and he did have to bump him a little bit. But Joey Logano, unfortunately for him, was not able to get the win and got a solid second place finish, which for the day he was having, the disastrous day he was having, I'm sure he'll take second place all day long. Martin Truex Jr., remember, a long time ago they used to say they call it Martinsville because of Martin Truex Jr., was able to get another solid top 3 day today. Martin Truex Jr., once again, using strategy, was pretty fast, was pretty, in the top 20, top 15 most of the day, was able to come up there and get a 3rd place finish. Once again, I'm going to keep saying it, track position was key. Denny Hamlin was also fast as well. He was really fast in the fall last year, if you remember that. Was able to get a solid 4th place finish. Another one of your Joe Gibbs Racing Toyotas. All those Joe Gibbs Racing Toyotas and Hendrick Chevrolets, especially Kyle Larson, obviously, used strategy to their advantage in a great way. They were able to get the best finishes they could have possibly get using strategy. So shout out to all the crew chiefs, seriously, on that. Now we go to Chase Briscoe in the 5th position, who ended up finishing in 5th. He was leading when we got the final caution. When the final caution come out, he was out front in 1st and came down pit road and got 4 tires. I still don't quite understand that decision, and I really don't know what they were seeing. We saw all day long where track position was so much more important than tires. The entire race, just don't understand what the 14 crew there was thinking coming down pit road, getting 4 tires, giving up some track position, and ended up finishing in the 5th position. Really disappointing there. that no Stewart-Haas Racing Ford was able to win this race after they were showing much speed all weekend long. So definitely disappointing there for the 14 team of Chase Briscoe trying to get his second career win. He's not going to be able to pull it off today. Another one of those Stewart-Haas Fords finishes in the 6th position, Eric Almirola. I don't believe Eric Almirola led any in this race, but he was in a top 3 for a majority of the day and obviously was able to finish with a solid 6th place finish, trying to turn his season around. He's had a really rough year. He's unloaded off the truck slow, had some bad luck, made some mistakes, but Eric Almirola today with a solid top 10. But once again, another one of those SHR cars not in victory lane. Disappointing. Ryan Blaney, he was outside the top 10 for a majority of the race. Was able to sneak into the top 10 once again off of a strategy move and hold a solid 7th place finish. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Daytona 500 winner in the playoffs, trying to show some muscle. Show some muscle early in this season. Been getting some better results. Been getting a couple of top 10s here the last few weeks. Definitely Ricky Stenhouse Jr. trying to get up there, show some speed. It was a couple of weeks ago. I believe it was at Richmond. He was able to run in the top 5 for a long time and hold that speed. So definitely Ricky Stenhouse Jr. trying to show that he has speed, that he's a better that car has improved and that there's a lot of speed in that 47 Chevrolet. So it's good to see him once again get a top 10 finish this season. Bubba Wallace, who's had some success at Martinsville. I believe his first ever truck race, Bubba's first ever truck race was at truck win was at Martinsville a few years ago, maybe 2015 or so. So I guess it's been a long time. But Bubba Wallace was able to win at Martinsville a few years ago in the Truck Series. Obviously, he's run fairly well in his Cup career at Martinsville. Once again, gets a solid top 10 finish for Bubba Wallace. By the way, his teammate, Tyler Riddick, was really fast today in the top 5 and the top 10 for most of the start of the race. But once again, lost that track position, didn't have the best strategy, didn't play out like he wanted it to, and he did not even finish in the top 10, but Bubba Wallace was able to. Chase Elliott on his first race back with a broken leg. In his post-race interview, he said his leg was a little bit stiff with all the braking and stuff, but he overall felt pretty comfortable, didn't feel any pain following the race, which is definitely good for him. Glad to see Chase Elliott back. The fans were thrilled about that. I was in the grandstands today. The fans were definitely thrilled to see Chase Elliott back at the racetrack. Let's talk about the Stewart-Haas Racing Fords as well. I think that's going to be a big story in this race because they were really fast for the majority of the day. There was a main portion, I believe I posted it on Twitter, there was a main portion of this race where all 4 of those cars were in the top 10, running in the top 10, leading. Most of them were in the top 5. It was looked like to be a Stewart-Haas Racing show today, and they all just didn't have the right strategy calls, which is a bit frustrating. Not sure what they saw on the pit box. Once again, you had Chase Briscoe, who was leading at the time of the final caution, comes down pit road, gets 4 tires, gives up the lead, gives up the top 5. Really frustrating to see there. Ended up finishing in the 5th position for Chase Briscoe. Definitely could have got his second career win today. That's frustrating. I already talked about that. Eric Almirola, same type situation. But Ryan Preece, when we started the race, when we took the green flag at the initial start of this race, Ryan Preece looked like the guy to beat. I thought it was going to be a Ryan Preece show. I thought nobody was going to be able to touch him. He was pulling away from the field. Nobody could get close to him. The second place couldn't even get close to him. And then unfortunately got a pit road speeding penalty. You cannot get pit road speeding penalties, especially in this type of race. At Martinsville for one, but especially at Martinsville with this next-gen car because track position is so key and it's so hard to get up through the field. Unfortunately, Ryan Preece, who definitely had a good shot to win this race, ends up finishing in the 15th position and doesn't even get the win today. Definitely frustrating there for Ryan Preece, trying to, obviously help his season out. It's been a rough season for Ryan Preece, not getting the results that he should be based on strategy calls, maybe a little bit of bad luck, maybe some driver mistakes. Has definitely been a frustrating season for him. Kevin Harvick led late in the race, was able to get the lead. Fans were cheering, his final season. Fans were excited about that. Once again, strategy calls, wasn't able to stay out front, gave up too much track position, and Kevin Harvick doesn't even get a top 10, much less the win, finishes in the 20th position. Really disappointing by Kevin Harvick there. I just want to know what those guys were thinking. Definitely need to discuss what they saw, why they thought track position or tires were more important than track position by coming down pit road a few more times later on in the race. Definitely didn't help those guys. Pretty frustrating. So I talked about how track position was key for the entire race. When I went through the top 10, I went through the Stewart-Haas Racing cars, track position was super important. That was the name of the game, and I think that could be a concern. That's really not what I want to hear when I'm talking about a Martinsville race. That's not what I want to be talking about following a race at Martinsville. I was in the grandstands today. You could see it. The cars were stalling out once again. I've been to the last 4 Martinsville races, and you can tell a distinct difference from the 2021 race in the fall where there was a lot of passing, a lot of action. Crazy Martinsville, what we're used to seeing, action-packed, beating and banging Martinsville. We're no longer seeing that, and that's a bit frustrating because you're going to get some races, and we've even had some races at Martinsville, and some races this season where you don't see a lot of battling for the lead. You don't see a lot of passing for the lead. You don't even see a lot of passing mid-pack. That's okay in certain situations. The problem is when it's impossible to pass. And you saw the comments from Denny Hamlin today. Denny Hamlin basically said it's impossible to pass. He said the new NASCAR is strategy calls, and that's it. And that's really frustrating because I don't want to see that as a race fan, and I especially don't want to see that at a racetrack like Martinsville. I love Martinsville. It's the half mile of mayhem, and today it was definitely tame. No drivers were mad at each other because you really couldn't do too much. The cars were just stalling out so much, and it was really frustrating to watch. It's really frustrating when a guy like Ryan Preece is dominating the race, and he's pulling away from second place, and he gets behind some lap cars. In typical Martinsville, you just go around the lap cars. You might have to bump them up the track a little bit but you're just so much faster than them. It's frustrating when he couldn't pass those lap cars. It took him way too many laps to get around Joey Logano. He was never able to get around the one of Chastain. First off, why are those cars even back there? That's a whole other problem with the stalling out. But really frustrating today to see that. It makes no sense that Joey Logano went a couple of laps down or was going laps down and then's able to hold a second place finish. That doesn't make sense. And I'm not down talking Joey Logano. I'm saying that he shouldn't have been back in that position with the dirty air. Just really frustrating. NASCAR, I don't know what the concern is. Obviously, I'm not an engineer. I don't know how to fix this. But NASCAR, and I'm confident they're looking into this, trying to fix this stalling out problem. It definitely fixed it at Richmond. Richmond was a really good race. There was a whole lot of passing, but Martinsville, car stalling out is a problem. And I'm really disappointed that we're talking about this now 2 years in a row, really 3 races in a row, where stalling out has been a main concern with these next-gen cars at Martinsville. It's really disappointing. When I want to watch a race at Martinsville, when I go to Martinsville, I want to see beating and banging. I want to see a whole lot of action. And we haven't seen a whole lot of that with this new race car. Definitely needs to be addressed. I was listening to Sirius XM radio on the ride back from the racetrack. They were talking about the gearbox. They might need to find a way to get a separate gearbox for the short tracks. You know, we have 5 gears now. Apparently, we're shifting at Martinsville now. That doesn't sound too good. Shifting at Martinsville, shifting at short tracks, that doesn't sound good. Maybe I have to look into a new gearbox for the short track package at least. But I don't know. That sounds really expensive. That sounds pricey. That sounds almost undoable. Maybe add a little bit more horsepower onto the race car. Talk about this as well. We're running way less horsepower now. I believe it's about 100 less horsepower than we were with the Generation 6 car. So, I don't know. Just definitely a concern that needs to be addressed. I don't know if you need to take the rear diffuser off, but it's really frustrating to watch this car stalling out at Martinsville. We've got to get this fixed. I'd say as soon as possible. I say for the fall race because I don't want to watch the race in the fall. Why would I buy a ticket to go to Martinsville in the fall with this package where I'm going to see little to no action due to the package? Just really frustrating. But that's it. That's really all there is to talk about following today's race at Martinsville. We do go to Talladega next week, so that's obviously going to be the big race, the biggest oval on the schedule. Could be a lot of big wrecks there. Could definitely be a great finish like we've seen many times there. But obviously, like and subscribe if you like the video, obviously. And then, of course, about Kyle Busch not having a good day, finishing 21st today, unfortunately. Let's get rowdy.